We're talking with Becky Bond. She's the vice president and political director of Credo Mobile. And Becky, that is such a good factoid and such a good point that while this may create some temporary jobs, we're only looking at 35 permanent jobs for something that really will make our planet unlivable for us and our children in a short amount of time. Now, I have to wonder, though, why the president is doing this. And I think that a lot of the president's voters and supporters are wondering that too. And while we support all of these civil actions and civil disobedience and making the president see this popular resistance everywhere he goes, including at that fundraiser protest next Wednesday in San Francisco, do you have any insight into why the president seems so dead set on this?
You know, that's a really great question. And, you know, for those of us who don't live in D.C., we're often mystified by the positions that our elected officials take, which are so clearly out of sync with the people that they represent. And, you know, all I can say is that there is the oil industry and the people that profit off of the oil industry have enormous power in Washington, D.C., and I think that the president has at times taken this position where he can give a little to the right wing, you know, then he can do a few of the things that he told the voters that he would do, and that, you know, he can make everybody happy. This idea of trying to be bipartisan and trying to compromise. Climate's not something that we can compromise on, and this is one where it doesn't matter what else he does, you know, that would chip away at the speed at which we are heating up the planet. If he approves the Keystone XL pipeline, we can't have an all-of-the-above energy policy where we approve Keystone XL and we also push solar and renewables. We have to reject the Keystone XL pipeline because that's going to spell game over for the client. Then we have to he has to put out a strong carbon rule which will regulate carbon emissions from existing power plants. Then he has to make serious investments in renewable energy. We have to do all of these things. He can't just do one, you know, give with one hand to the people that voted for him and want him to do something on climate change, and then give with another hand to the oil executives who exert so much power in Washington, D.C. But I'll tell you this, I think that his advisors have done him a disservice, and I think that sometimes it's hard to break through the people, the cynical people that often surround the president, and that's why we've headed up this Keystone XL Pledge of Resistance. And Daniel, I'd invite you to join us. I have pledged along
I've
with
signed
53.
it. I can disclose that.
Perfect. Okay, that's great. Well, thank you so much. So you and me and 53,000 other people, that's more people than attended the climate rally in Washington, D.C., have stood up and said, if the president, when his State Department issues the determination of whether this pipeline is in the national interest or not, this will be the key sign of whether he's going to approve it or not. If that comes out recommending for the pipeline, we will risk arrest to try and stop it. And it's not just people like you and I that work in politics. There's a guy from Omaha, Nebraska, who works on pipelines. He's a pipeline regulator, and he has said, I am going to get arrested if this thing comes out. A college professor in New York City said that as a college professor, I feel like I must set an example for my students. And she said, if this report comes out from the State Department, I will protest and risk arrest to stop this pipeline. There was a mom in Pensacola, Florida, who has two kids who couldn't go to the beach with them after the BP oil spill in the Gulf, and she said, you know what, I can't go through that again. If the president indicates that he's going to approve Keystone XL, I will go out and get arrested. We have amazing people, just everyday people in communities across the country who said, this is so important. I am willing to make the sacrifice of risking arrest, and I want the president to know. And we're doing a lot of work with Rainforest Action Network and our partners to get trainings ready, to get these actions scheduled so that the people have the opportunity to make that sacrifice and stand up and say as strongly as possible to the president, I am willing to get arrested if you do this. And we think that if the president really knows what's going on and takes that to heart and listens to these people, then he will understand what a grave mistake he will be committing if he approves this pipeline.
Well, I think it's fair to say, Becky, that we're at least in recent years, we're in uncharted territory here, in that we really have a progressive movement that is willing to say, no to a Democratic president in such a way that we are all now committed, all 53,000 of us and many thousands more in other supportive ways, to getting arrested, to stopping this. And I encourage all of our listeners and viewers, here are the stakes. It's the planet's survival. And if we pump out this dirty tar sands oil, and again, it wouldn't be us, it'd be China, who's of course a strategic rival in many respects, there will not be a planet to have new jobs on. There will not be a planet to debate social issues on and the survival of our social insurance programs and all of those things. So I encourage you all to go to credoaction.com and sign the pledge, the Keystone XL Pledge of Resistance. Again, that's credoaction.com. And if you can't make it to the protest at the Obama fundraiser this coming Wednesday in San Francisco, go to another protest and use the hashtag #NoKXL. Becky Bond, thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us this information about what is really one of the missions and goals of our lifetime.
And thank you so much, Daniel, for being not just for being on the radio and helping to spread the word, but also from being part of the active resistance that's willing to go to the mat to stop climate change. It means a lot.
It's the least we can do. When Take Action News continues, we're going to have our last How It Should Be segment, the segment that I normally do, but with a twist. It's going to be done by our co-host, Dana Bell, today. Take Action News continues after this.